Welcome to my channel, PhoenixLeon Audio.
My sister was porridge, but I changed it back. My parents gave birth to me a younger sister at the age of S. When I went to visit her, I witnessed a terrible scene. A woman took my younger sister away, and then the porridge was exchanged with another child. I secretly porridged my younger sister, and then, as if possessed by a demon, I chose to stay silent and not tell anyone. 18 years later, a young girl ran to my parents crying. My parents and I was the youngest daughter of the two. When I came back from a business trip, I discovered the atmosphere in the house was very strange. My parents had complicated expressions. In the house was quiet. Strangely, in my hand I still held the gift I bought for my family. Surprised and asked, "Where is Dudu?" Recently it was a holiday, but why didn't she come home? Ludu is my younger sister who is S years younger than me. This year she is going to university right in this city. Every time she has a holiday she comes home. On the way home I imagined the scene where she met me. She would definitely be like a little cat, running up, snatching my luggage, then hugging me tightly and saying, "Sister, finally." Sister, I'm back, but I don't see my sister anywhere. Only my parents are silent and don't say anything. My father signals with his eyes to come here. My parents have something important to discuss with me. I'm the eldest sister in the family. After graduating from university, I started managing the family business. Our Luke family is a lineage of Dan Raya Vongtok. The genealogy is complete. Every generation has outstanding people. My parents' relatives are all rich and powerful. The family business will be inherited by me and my sister in the future. It's true that there's a throne that needs to be passed down. What's so mysterious about my parents, I wonder, and step forward. Could it be that Dudu has encountered something? Was she bullied at school? My sister is inherently gentle and absolutely not the type to bully others. My mother pulled me to sit down. Her face was extremely serious. This is much more serious. What's so serious about it? Could it be that our family is having problems in some business project? My family works in many fields. I can't think of any projects that are having difficulties right now. Right, Dad? Said. He looked embarrassed. Lower, Dudu. Maybe she is not your biological sister. What? I turned to my mother. Mother, did you do something wrong to Dad? Immediately I got a slap on the back of my neck. What nonsense are you talking about? Dad's voice suddenly rose. What did Dad mean? Dudu might not be Dad's child, and Mom also meant she's not your real sister. How could that be? I firmly said. As soon as I finished speaking, Mom was also worried and echoed, "That's right, my adopted daughter for 18 years. How could she not be our turtle?" Mom and Dad's words were really strange. I folded my arms, leaned on the back of the chair, and observed them. What was going on? Who said that Dudu wasn't my parents' child and was my biological sister? From what my parents told me, I understood the strange thing that happened when I was away a few days ago. An 18-year-old girl with a tearful face stood in front of her house, holding my mother's hand tightly, crying, saying, "Mom and Dad, I am your daughter. Ludu wasn't your biological daughter. Her biological mother had us fed since birth." I rubbed my temples, feeling a little dizzy. You guys also believe this scam star? Give it here so I can check if your phone has the national anti-fraud application. But she knew Dudu's birth time. She even knew the name of the hospital and the name of the doctor who delivered her baby. My mother explained. I grabbed my mother's hand and said, "This can only prove that she is a scammer who has prepared carefully. This information is not difficult to know. Just take the time to find out and spend a little money to get it right away." My father thought for a moment and then said, "At first we didn't believe it, but she showed us the jade pendant of my grandmother. You were still young at that time, so you might not remember. Grandma had a pair of jade pendants made for you and your sister. The jade that Dudu is wearing was made later, and the original one was placed in her crib. For some reason it mysteriously disappeared." My parents' words suddenly awakened my memory. When my sister was born, I was only 18 years old. That day after school from kindergarten, I saw that only the maid was busy in the house. I made a fuss and asked to find my parents, but the maid comforted me that they went to the hospital to pick up my sister. I remember that I was not able to go to the hospital with my family until the next evening. At that time, Luke Dudu was born 18 years ago. Security at the hospital was not as strict as it is now. I remember that at that time, I often heard about child trafficking cases. That night, my father had urgent business at the company, so he had to leave. At first, many relatives gathered, but they also came back because my mother needed to rest. There should have been a maid to stay and take care of my sister, but I don't know why. At that time, the maid wasn't in the room. I stood by my sister's bed, looking at the small, soft baby inside. She was weak but very adorable, like a small version of me. I looked until I was fascinated, but I didn't know when sleepiness came. The light in the hospital room was very dim. My mother and sister were both sleeping soundly in a daze. I saw my mother's coat hanging by the bed. It looked very warm. I immediately took it down, wrapped it around me, and leaned against the bed. Suddenly, the sound of the door opening woke me up. I thought my father had returned, but when I looked closely, I discovered that it was a strange woman. In her arms, she seemed to be holding something I squinted and peeked, and discovered that it was a child. She quietly entered, placed the baby in her arms, and put it in the crib. Then she picked up my sister. Quietly, I left the hospital room. I hid in the corner, still wrapped in my mother's coat, so she did notice me. At that time, I was half awake and half asleep. I even thought I was in a daze, but when the door closed, I suddenly realized that something was wrong. One immediately ran to look at the crib and found a child in the crib, although she was wearing exactly the same clothes as my sister. How could I mistake my sister? I immediately shook my mother awake, but she was in a deep sleep and there was no way to wake her up. I could only immediately open the door and see that woman just turned the corner of the hallway. I immediately chased after her. I saw that woman enter another hospital room and heard her mumbling something to herself that, although I couldn't hear clearly, but I silently memorized the room number. Not long after a man came to that hospital room, the two of them started arguing. The man seemed to grab something and then left the woman chased after him. Taking advantage of this moment, I sneaked into that hospital room and saw my sister lying obediently on the children's bed. After confirming that it was my sister, I carefully carried her up with difficulty and returned to my mother's room. Along the way, my sister cried a little but was very obedient and didn't cry. When I brought her back to my mother safely, I turned around and carried the strange child back to the hospital room. Just now, when the maid came back and saw me holding the child, she was so shocked that she couldn't help but be shocked. Later, my father found out about the incident and scolded me, saying I was too naughty. As for my mother, she slept for a few hours and then woke up. Everything was still peaceful. I didn't know what had just happened. This in my memory is a bit vague. Thinking back later, I thought it was just a dream, until now when someone held the jade pendant that my grandmother gave my sister to come and identify her. I remembered everything. I didn't sure all the details in my memory are correct, and that girl who came to claim her body, where is she now? I asked mom and dad. I told her to temporarily stay in the apartment in the south of the city. My mom answered gently. I frowned. Have you done a test yet? Why did you let a stranger into your apartment? Mom didn't dare. My mom lowered her head and said. My dad was also silent, his eyes flash of unease. They were really afraid to face the possibility of that truth. I didn't mention the story in my memory, even though I was almost sure that Dudu was my little sister, but the memory when I was 6 years old was a bit vague. Only a test was the most certain evidence. Like this, let's quickly think of a plan. We quickly contact that girl and take her for a test. Before the results come out, don't tell Dudu. No one wants the people they live with day and night to doubt each other about their blood relationship. My parents also agreed with my suggestion, but if the results really prove she is our little daughter, then why is my mother still worried? I glanced at the email on the phone and replied casually to the police to investigate the truth, take her home to compensate for what needs to be compensated, and the child can move out if needed. The surplus is grown up. The child can be independent, but the incident often comes faster than expected. I thought that only me and my parents knew about this. Unexpectedly, the next day I received a phone call from Sister Lack. Her younger sister had an accident, and then Luke Dudu got into a fight at school. The girl was originally a gentle-natured girl, but she got into a fight with someone else, which made me extremely surprised. When I arrived at the police station, the situation was very chaotic. In the crowd, I saw Luke Dudu with red eyes and the teacher in charge of her sister Dudu. I softly called out in the crowd. The younger sister with teary eyes, her face full of resentment, turned around and saw me, then immediately ran to hug her sister. I miss you so much. I looked from head to toe at her. Seeing that she was not injured, I opened my mouth and asked me why she argued with someone else. Angry told me, sister, I saw Tongla hugging another girl in school. He had an affair. Tongla, my fiance. Only now did I realize that the man I hadn't seen for a long time was standing in the middle. Damn, Dong Tongla was the person I chose to be my fiance. His background was also considered worthy. Just Lu, his appearance was quite good, although his passion and talent in his career were somewhat ordinary. I still valued his family background. Luke Dudu was still moved. I gently patted her back, trying to calm her down. I turned to Tongla, looked at the man who was a little taller than me, and asked Tongla about this. What was going on next to him was a strange girl who looked quite pretty. Tongla angrily said, Lakha's just a friend. Don't listen to Luke Dudu's nonsense. As soon as he finished speaking, Luke Dudu angrily spoke up. How old are you? What kind of friend is she? How can she still have the face to seduce female students? Don't dare to betray my sister. Let's see what he'll do to you. My gentle younger sister, like possessed, she looked like she wanted to rush in and beat someone up again. This is the friend you said. What is the young lady of which family? Why have I never seen her before? I turned to the girl next to Tongla. At this moment, I felt extremely calm, but Tongla seemed unnatural. She is a friend I met at the coffee shop. You only fools believe I did. And T expose it, but Luke Dudu exploded again. What kind of friends hug each other like that? Having an affair, then having an affair. Dare to do it, but don't dare to admit it. You're really good. The police, when they know about our relationship, are obviously more comfortable. If it's a personal matter, then we should resolve it privately and not let any more conflicts happen. Actually, Tong, the reporting to the police was a bit hasty. He should know that with the relationship between the two families, even if they make a big deal out of it. His family will advise him to handle it discreetly, especially in this matter. He is the one at fault. Unexpectedly, Tong still kept an angry expression. He pointed at Luke Dudu and said, unless she apologizes to me first, Tong La didn't before must be such an unreasonable person. I calmly looked at him, stopping my sister, who was about to refute, still keeping a gentle voice. Tong Lin wanted my sister to apologize for having an affair and causing her to have to fight as soon as she finished speaking. The girl next to Tong La cautiously looked at me. Sister, you and I, Tong La, are innocent. Sister, don't misunderstand me. Luke Duda's face became more and more gloomy. I pointed at my sister, who was angry like a cat fluffing her fur beside me, and said, this girl, my sister, is here. Don't call me randomly. Finally, Tong La opened his mouth with relief. I still want to admit, this fake girl is my sister. Why didn't your parents say it already? Luke Dudu is my little sister Thu. She is my little sister Thu. He pointed at the girl next to him. I was stunned, staring at Tong La and that girl, looking at them with a completely different gaze. In my heart, vaguely guessing the identity of the girl. Before she could say anything, Luke Dudu spoke up. He said, Lin, what kind of adultery are you still making up stories about him? Not my sister's biological sister. She's the one who should be right in a warm family. No one thinks about not being their parents' biological child or not being their sister's biological sister. As a result, the girl suddenly burst into tears, looking at me with a resentful expression, as if she was looking at her sister, who originally belonged to her but was now caring about someone else. I was stunned. The argument between Tong La and Luke Dudu was still going on. I don't know where he got angry with my sister. He pointed at her and said, you do know, Luke Dudu, it was your biological mother who switched you and Nini, right? After they were born. You're not a member of the Luke family. To Nini, I remember my parents mentioned the name of the girl who came to claim her. It turned out to be her. I didn't expect her and Luke Dudu to study at the same university. I lowered my eyes and thought about the situation and Tong La's role in it. Now we're still in the police station around here. There was Luke Duda's instructor and a few other police officers, more importantly a few of Luke Duda's friends, all of whom were also present at the beginning. I didn't even intend to let my sister know about this before the truth came to light, but now there were too many people knowing at the same time. Luke Dudu still thought that Tong La was just talking nonsense, but he said something that I couldn't deny. If you don't believe me, then just ask your sister. Your parents can't hide something this big from her. Luke Dudu turned to look at me. She was my sister from childhood to adulthood, always by my side when my parents were busy. I took care of her alone, so no one understood what I meant better than her sister, is what he said. True. Also, Luke Dudu understood me. I also understood you in just a few short seconds. She must have thought of all the situations. Now she was attentively observing my expression to find the answer. My short moment of silence seemed to have confirmed the truth. Luke Dudu's eyes were red, not because of anger, but is the surprise, sadness, and bitter feeling before the joke of fate. It's hard to face you at this moment. I coldly looked at Tong La before I could say anything. Then too, not and you beside him spoke up. Sister, do you only want this little sister? You and I, Tong La, just met by chance. He helped me. I heard he knew you and your parents, so I asked him to help me meet my parents. So that's how it is. I wondered how she could meet my parents when they live so secretly. I don't even know their daily schedule on Tanayan. Ni clearly showed resentment and unwillingness. I could see her jealousy towards Luke Dudu, feeling of hatred for someone who had enjoyed wealth and glory for her for 18 years. Even though she tried to hide it, she still couldn't help but reveal a bit of hatred. I remember that my parents made an appointment for her to go get tested tomorrow. Now before the results came out, I have no reason to believe she is my chasing little sister. I coldly saying, this means I tacitly admit what Tong La just said. Lu Yu's expression is hard to describe. The emotions chaos makes her not know how to react. Her friends look at the scene with eyes full of surprise. Tong La, you are interfering in something that is not yours, I said, as if I am confirming a fact, but Tong La reacted very violently. I thought you were just a cold person, but I didn't expect you to be so insensitive. Even your shy sister didn't admit it, just chose a cold and arrogant old man. Maybe so with this fiancé. I naturally can't be as gentle as the other women who have been with him. I was lucky to be born into a wealthy family, not to be a gentle woman who obeys men, while the young members of the Tong family always fight secretly and openly. Then the Lu family's karma is only me and Lu Yu inherited from a young age. We were taught to hold absolute initiative. Tong La, I suddenly spoke up. You don't care about your sister, but come here to take care of my sister. He was silent and was about to say something when I turned to tell Luke Dudu let us go home. On the way home, I called my parents to tell them what happened today. At the same time, remind them to remember to bring someone to get tested tomorrow. My sister looked like a wilted flower, no longer active, quite like when her idol in high school had a scandal exposed. My parents were both at home when they saw me bring my sister home. They tried to act like usual, cared and invited her in for dinner, but Luke Dudu really became much quieter and no longer liked to talk. This made my parents so worried that they were restless at night. When I was about to go to bed, there was a knock on the door outside the room. Please come in. Open the door. My 18-year-old sister was hugging the teddy bear that she usually slept with, standing outside it. was a gift I gave her when she was little. And since then she always hugged it to sleep. I looked up as if I had returned to the time when she was in elementary school. The tiny figure hugged the teddy bear and ran over saying she wanted to sleep with me. Sister, tonight can you sleep with me even though we haven't slept together for many years? But I still said come here. On Look-Duda's face a flash of joy flashed across her face. She quickly climbed onto my bed. She didn't say much. It seemed like she simply wanted to sleep next to her sister. I actually have a pretty good memory. I remember very clearly how she looked when she was little. She was always chattering, her cheerful personality when sleeping together. She usually talked a lot, finally falling asleep, but tonight she was very quiet. However, it seemed like she could sleep either. Even though the lights were off, she barely moved, but I understood. My little sister Look-Dudu did sleep well like this for a long time after that. When I was about to fall asleep, I suddenly heard her calling out, Sister, well, if you really are your parents' child, then why are you theirs? I said in a firm tone. She said if only, and there was no if at all. I was sure the next day my parents and I were preparing to take Tanayani to get tested. When we went to the apartment to pick her up, I saw Tongla there pulling her hand. Saw someone enter. Both of them showed a look of embarrassment. Little ceremony, why are you here? My father's face is not good. Yesterday I mentioned Tongla but did not mention this matter in front of my parents. Tongla still kept the respectful look of a junior uncle. Aunt Naini said she was a bit worried. You come to see how it is. Conveniently take her to the testing center. Anyway, in the future we're all family. But family? I curled my lips, not knowing how this little girl had used to make Tongla believe that she was the lost daughter of the Luke family. Tongla's actions in my family's eyes were too much. After all, he was still my nominal fiancé. If he wanted to go with me, he should not have come to Tunai's place without permission. Moreover, this apartment is also my parents' house. Today's trip is a private matter. Then let Tongla be the driver in the car. Naini sat in the back seat, quietly telling about what she had experienced in the past year. She said that her foster mother treated her very badly since in elementary school. She was forced to do all the housework, often beating and scolding her foster father, who was addicted to drugs. Her father also considered her a place of anger. When she grew up, they even planned to marry her off to get dowry money. She tried to study hard to pass the university entrance exam to escape that life. It sounds like a pitiful girl, but my personality doesn't allow me to completely believe in one side of human nature. Everyone will tell what is beneficial to them, right? Knowing my identity, I suddenly asked to Nayani. She didn't seem surprised when someone asked this. Maybe she had told this story to someone else before. Last year, when I came home, I accidentally saw the phone of my adoptive mother. Too, Nayani told me that in it there were photos that her adoptive mother secretly took of Luke Dudu and some other photos that she marked in the album as good daughter. I saw in a photo on Luke Dudu's neck a jade pendant that was exactly like mine. Later, when she was drunk, she cursed and said that her daughter was living happily in a rich family, but the daughter of the rich family was having to serve her. When she told me this, Tunayani added that I asked my adoptive father. He said that I was born a few days before my due date, but she insisted on giving birth on that day. The story sounded so real that it was hard to believe that the jade pendant onto Nayani's neck was also real, making my parents feel even more heartbroken when they thought about the possibility that their biological daughter had to endure these things. Before finding my parents, she didn't plan to do a DNA test with her adoptive parents first to make sure she wasn't her biological child. I asked more. Nayani paused and hesitated. I didn't think about it. I also had to stand between the opportunity to become a young lady and a normal family. Everyone would tend to want to avoid the latter part. Enough. Tongla was driving and spoke up. I was questioning my sister what whether to accept her or not is decided by bloodline. I can't treat her coldly just because I'm close to Luke Dudu. I smiled lightly. That's right. This is decided by bloodline. Then let the bloodline test results speak. The results will be out in 3 days. I have a party to attend. The young lady of the two family is celebrating her 18th birthday, so I invited my whole family to the party. The two families have a certain relationship, so I can't help but give face to my sister. I'm closer to her because they are only 2 years apart. My parents are chatting with the elders of the two family. I simply said hello and found a quiet corner to drink. Luke Dudu. Miss Tu has been pulled away by Miss Tu to talk privately for the past 2 days. She has not been in a good mood. Perhaps she has secretly cried a few times, but every time I ask, she says it's okay. Luke Lack lowers his voice and says it's okay. I turn around and see clearly who just came. I indifferently turn away. Young master too. It's been a long time since I've seen Tavu back, wearing a black shirt with the top to buttons left open, revealing his collarbone and a sparkling silver necklace around his neck. He slowly approaches. He doesn't even know how to keep his distance. From behind, he wraps his arms around the railing in front of me, forming a hug that only keeps me a very small distance away. To back, I sternly warn the person behind me not to let go. On the contrary, he uses an intimate tone. I see your fiancé bringing a girl in here. It seems like he's trying to bully your sister too. What does it have to do with me? I coldly reply. I also see Tongla holding hands with another girl. He smiles lightly. In the past, if someone looked at me for more than 2 seconds, you were unhappy. Now, is it no longer Monopoly? A perfect ex should have been silent as if dead me and Tavubak had a love affair in college when we were both adults at that time. It was my first love, so I had a lot of affection. Possessiveness was not small, and he was no less than me. Later, because of some things, we broke up. He went abroad to continue studying. I did not contact him again. We were the type of people who were ambitious, not wanting to give in nor let feelings hinder their careers, so when he went abroad to study, I did not keep him. But on the night I got engaged to Tongla last year, Tavubak called. I picked up the phone but did not say anything. He was also silent. A long time later, he said, "Do you like him?" I replied, "What does it have to do with you?" So Tavubak was sure he was not the type one. Like, the two of you will not be together for long. I immediately hung up. I hate the type of man who is more confident than me. Now thinking back, he really guessed right. This engagement, it hasn't even lasted 2 years. When will you come back to the country? I asked a question in the morning. Now just landed. Tavubak landed. It seems he really cares about his sister's coming of age ceremony. Let go. I have to go down to see the situation. From my position, I can see below there is a bit of chaos. Tavubak did not leave, but said, "Don't worry. I told Tuaning already. If anyone dares to bully Luke Dudu, she doesn't need to keep her dignity. Just do it. He'll take responsibility. No one can bully my sister." Turn around to face him. Tavubak, what do you mean by this? Want to be the third person? Why did he bow his head and meet me? He said as if to confirm. Tongla is not worthy of you. The position of the Tong family's heir will never fall into his hands. His ability is even worse than his own sister, not to mention his cousin. Marrying you is just to increase his own value. Why do you need to choose such a disloyal partner? And different in terms of work. A trustworthy businessman. And in terms of personal life, I only deal with you. Much cleaner than him. Go abroad for a while. Trip. It's true that I'm a bad student and I don't care about what I say anymore. I still pushed Tavubak away and went down to check on the situation, but it seemed like I came a little late. The argument seemed to have temporarily subsided. Everyone looked at me with curious eyes as if they wanted to ask something but didn't dare to say anything. As I walked through the crowd, I heard gossip about me and my sister mixed with a few words. Fake rich girl. It turned out that Tongla took 9 to an guest coming of age ceremony. Before that, the story about Luke Dudu and Tanini had spread. Maybe it was Tongla or Luke Dudu's friends. Anyway, the troublemaker was Tongla. My parents didn't know where they went. As for my sister, she was probably with Miss Tu. I walked toward the lounge. The hallway floor was covered with thick carpet, so my high heels didn't make any noise when I walked through a half-closed door. I heard Tongla's voice inside. Nayani, if you are the child of the Luke family, then, of course, the Luke family's assets will be yours. After the test results, Luke Dudu will no longer exist. The heir is still in the lower class. Then do. Like, you are my sister, why should I pay attention to her? A girl's voice rang out. But you don't know how to manage the company. Okay, I will help you. But that's not okay. I'm your sister's fiance. I don't know what action happened. There was a moment of silence. Then Tongla said, Nayan, you must have realized I don't like your sister. We are engaged only because the two families have business relations. If you return to the Luke family and you can also be a couple, don't you like me? Tongla's words reminded me of the time after the engagement. He sent flowers to my company every day, very enthusiastically picked me up and invited me to dinner, but I don't like this kind of utilitarian contact. After a few times like that, I made it clear to him that this was a relationship without feelings. What else could he expect from me? At that time, he didn't show that he didn't like it. Like now, maybe after not receiving a response from me, that's why he became so cold before. I don't know why Tongla interfered in this matter. Now I understand that he was engaged to me not to increase the value of the Tong family's inheritance, but to aim for the Lu family's assets. Dependency is a concept that is quite foreign to me since I was young. My parents taught us not to depend on men or let men take advantage of. The girl in the room who thought she had the heart of a rich young master was still listening to the other side draw a picture of a happy life in the dark. I had no expression. Quietly leaving, I just turned around and saw Tavubak standing not far away. His eyes contained a smile. It seems that your house has been quite bustling recently. Leaving the hallway, Tavubak said, if you want to see a good play, then go and watch it at the theater. I replied angrily to Tavubak, when will you cancel your engagement with him? Tavubak asked again. I looked at him. When did I say I would cancel the engagement? Even if I did, what does it have to do with you? The third person must be conscious and always ready to climb up the official position. He suddenly grabbed my hand and kissed the back of my hand lightly. Coming back from abroad, morality is really getting better and better. I went into Miss To's room to pull my sister, who was sobbing. What's there to cry about? When I go home, I gave a tissue to Luke Dudu. Sister, I told you, you'll always be my sister. The little girl with red, swollen eyes looked up at me and burst into tears again. What if it's not true? Did you see Tongla and Tu? Nayani, they definitely have something. shady going on. If she went to the Luke family and listened to Tong Le's words to go against you, what would happen? Tong Le's your fiance, but he protects to Naomi like that. He probably wants to take advantage of her. She doesn't know anything to coax her into sharing the family fortune with you. The bias of people's hearts is inevitable. The Luke family's fortune is so great that just me and Luke do to divide it is more than enough. She's still having fun and doesn't have any intention of managing the company. Life is long. My parents and I are not in a hurry to make her study management. The original plan was to wait for her to graduate before gradually taking over some of the work. I patted her head and sighed. There will be results in 2 days. I'm sure she's my biological child, but my parents and Luke don't understand why I'm so sure, and I can't explain my memories of my 50 years old, so I can only let the test results reassure everyone. Luke will probably think that I agreed to let Naomi do the test, because I also suspected that it wasn't true. I just want to solve this matter in the simplest way. Some people need to bear the consequences themselves, even though they haven't affected my family in the past 18 years. But I underestimated the cruelty of people's hearts. The day Luke returned to school, she encountered a few problems. A lecturer at the same university as her sent me a post from the school's confession wall with the following content. A male student in the faculty of finance is mentally strong. He dresses and spends on luxury items, but it turns out that the fake daughter is taking the place of the real daughter. In this situation, she can still go to school. When the biological mother changed the newborn baby in the hospital 18 years ago, she probably didn't expect that the real daughter would do it. She got into the same school as her, but she faked it and enjoyed wealth and honor for 18 years. That lecturer said, "This is about right? Why did your family story spread so quickly and even to the school? It's not normal. It's not normal. Normal people wouldn't spread stories that have a negative impact on themselves." Of course, it couldn't be my sister. Then it could only be Naomi. My friend is a lecturer, so she has many connections with students. Not long after, I saw a few people gossiping, seemingly wanting to reveal the identity of the main character in the story. Contact me to delete the post. A favor. Unverified things like this should have been posted. Lecturer in charge to ask the student to delete the post. NT stopped the rumors. Couldn't help but remind me to understand. Don't know why. Child who had porridge exchanged for bowls. Couldn't wait a few days for the test result. To the apartment in Hodong to meet Naomi. After the incident, leave to go home. Rumors online without evidence. Someone already believed in this true or false story of a rich girl. Club at school is not a secret revealed by someone with bad intentions. She has received a series of harassment to insult her. Now she can only hold a tablet and log into an account that is not hers for entertainment at home. Not that I want to prevent her from facing risks from society like disasters falling from the sky like that. Relatives to be there to help her solve it. Saw me and Naomi's parents changed and smiled brightly. Quick adaptation to her new family. My parents are still not used to this way of calling, want to say something but afraid of hurting her as their parents. Really nothing to blame, so before the test results they still have this possibility in their hearts, worried. Only I am not affected. After a few greetings I calmly asked to Naomi, have you seen any posts on the school's confession wall? She paused slightly, then replied in a questioning voice, "No, what's wrong, sister?" On the school's confession wall, someone anonymously posted about my story and left behind malicious words aimed at your sister. Now many people have deleted the post, but many people took that opportunity to come and scold your sister. Do you know about this? I observed too. Naomi's facial expression until the end of the question. Her eyes were not natural at all. Maybe there was a bit of gloating, I don't know anything about this. To Naomi's eyes suddenly turned red. Her voice was somewhat resentful. Sister, you mean you think I posted that article? Such a person in the hearts of your parents and sisters. Why did my mother speak up first? What does lack mean? Did you tell this story to your friends or roommates? She hesitated for a moment before saying in a low voice, "Told my roommates once. Maybe they felt indignant on my behalf." I looked at the comments under the post on the confession wall, like someone she knows brought this up for discussion before the test results came out. Really inconsiderate. Thought for a moment and then said words that weren't harsh but immediately made Naomi cry. Suspect that I did it on purpose. On purpose or not, Luke took away 18 years of my life. I should have grown up with my parents and my sister, loved by them. Her were really exchanged, just born, and she couldn't decide her own life. About my identity, blame is the one who caused this, and your parents didn't protect you well. US, one who benefited from this. Knee sat down on the floor. Unwillingness. Parents still treated her like their own daughter. Received was supposed to be yours. Real that my parents also believed that she wasn't lying. Truly immersed in the story of her life being changed. Resented the person who replaced her life for 18 years and the person who caused everything. What are you guys doing? A voice rang up from behind when he came over and helped Naomi stand up. Her face with anger. Where elders rely on their status as parents to scolding me much outside. Back warmth of my family for someone who was not related by blood to support Tong less words. Naomi's tears rolled down, looked so pitiful. This apartment, I suddenly spoke up. breaking the atmosphere. When I entered, mentioned in my words, immediately stiffened, realized the suddenness in Tongla's appearance last time. Testing, appearing, think further. Here my mother frowned and asked to Nayani. Voice was still choked, deliberately explained. Tongla that him, not familiar with him here. He would also be family in the future. Told him, awkward situation. Daughters my parents are not. People who are easily fooled, it turns out you also know this. Is my fiancé, I calmly said. My fiancé doesn't even know the password to the house but knows your password. Does it sound reasonable, Sister Tongla? Of course I can't bear to let the beauty be criticized. Immediately said to me, like how could you frame your sister like that? You and she are completely innocent, just came to see her clean. The two of you have already decided on your loyalty. Why don't I believe? I gently said, and before they could open their mouths I added, unless let me see the history of the story of the two of you fell into silence again. In the end Tongla spoke. Lakha, now you don't even give me this little bit of trust, or do you want to cancel the engagement? This person really wants to do anything but has to be one step ahead, but it also saves me from having to worry about solving this matter. Okay, I turned my head to look at my parents. Let's make an appointment with Uncle Tong. Today we will solve this matter now to avoid wasting other people's time. Parents, I clearly saw that Tongla was not a normal, decent person. Would definitely advise me to think carefully before canceling the engagement. Cooperation project ends. Perhaps because they thought that Nayani might be their biological daughter involved with her. Quickly resolve this matter at their age. Tong less ambition, he was too greedy and his ability was not up to par. Vaguely called his parents to discuss the cancellation of the engagement, but he didn't know what he was thinking or seeing the joy into Nayani's eyes. NT object. Tong family originally didn't want to cancel the engagement, didn't know what Tongla had said to them. Tong family's elders had a conciliatory attitude when they met, and to like each other. Each person would find a more suitable person later. Much change in attitude. Saying to my parents this time not becoming a family is also regretful. Future the two families will still have the opportunity to cooperate more deeply. Sides maintain a harmonious attitude in cooperation. Simple. Notify friends and relatives. First night after the cancellation, Vubak's phone called. Look Dai to you Thu. Heard that you are single now, with me on the other end of the line. Chuckled. That position is now vacant. When it first, his voice sank. Ate together. This damn guy was so arrogant before. Who did he learn this kind of coquetry from? I don't know. I immediately hung up the phone. Blood tests were also available. We decided to personally go to the appraisal agency to get a written report and announce the results on the spot. All the people involved were also I and Lu Yu's parents, and Su Rainer's parents needed to be there. Songli didn't know why he also followed, as if he wanted to be a support for Su Rainer. My parents and Lu Yu were both very worried. Seemed like that test report was destined to destroy the peace and warmth of our family. When we received the test results were on me, I looked at T9. Nikam voiced T9, this is a blood test report from the forensic agency. There is no possibility of forgery. You understand this? T9 didn't understand why I said that, but still nodded. I understand. LCCHA, don't drag it out any longer. Uptong L impatiently urged. It was obvious he was very eager to become the son-in-law of the LAC family. I was about to open the results when suddenly a middle-aged woman with messy hair rushed in. She scanned the room, then her eyes immediately locked on T9. Screamed and rushed over. I was going to hit her. You are _ you are making too much trouble. Your parents behind to fight for someone else's parents. That woman just arrived. Immediately gave T9 a slap. T9 covered her face and screamed while the other woman was about to hit her again, but was stopped by Tong L. He frowned and shouted loudly, who are you to dare to hit someone? The middle-aged woman looked up. She clearly showed a look of anger that couldn't be hidden in her mother. Shaza, human trafficker. Tongla understood the situation. My parents also stepped forward to stop her. Anyway, the result had not been revealed. The crazy Chinese woman shouted at Tanaya Niyu, come back to me right now. Don't even dream of being a Phoenix. Just marry the guy your father chose. She still has a factory. My parents looked at the woman as if trying to remember if they knew her, but it seemed like they didn't have any memories. They shook their heads, signaling me they didn't know her nor had any grudge. I looked at her. My heart suddenly felt a sense of anger, hard to recognize. It turned out the person who almost changed the fate of my sister and my whole family looked like this. This woman was too ugly. Maybe when she was young she was quite good looking. Maybe due to preconceived prejudice I still felt that there was a resemblance between her and Naini. The middle-aged woman turned to my parents and said, this girl is crazy about money. She is my child. How could she be your children or my parents? I don't understand how a mother can call her own child a bastard. What about the child's jade? My mother asked. The woman quickly answered. I picked it up before thinking it was fake, so I just put it in the drawer. Who would have thought she would steal it too? Nayani covered her face with a look of glee in her eyes, retaliated loudly saying, "You clearly lied. I heard you say you greeted a rich child at the hospital. You said that during the pregnancy checkup accidentally found out about the other person's family background, so she got greedy. The appraisal report is already there no matter what you say, Ka. And to change it she wants the woman who changed her life to see the identity of this fake child exposed. Her calculation failed, then she will be satisfied." Yes, hearing that, the middle-aged woman immediately turned to stare at the report in my hand as if she was facing an enemy. Stubbornly added, "I told you it was my child. Why do you believe if it's not my child, why would I raise it? Is it that I can abandon it? It goes at any time." Why does Tanayani only dare to respond? Because she can't give birth anymore. She needs someone to take care of her when she's old. She's stabbed in the pain. The woman was about to raise her hand to hit Tanayani but was stopped, thinking about the fact that this woman not only exchanged children but also intended to abandon me. My eyes became even colder. "Mom, are you sure that Tanayani is your biological daughter?" I asked, and conveniently pointed towards the old lawyer. In her words, "It seems like my sister is your biological daughter." The little girl who was pointed to stepped back slightly, completely rejecting this strange woman, of course, who would have sympathy for someone who uses harsh words to scold and even beat their own child. I noticed that the woman also glanced at Luke. Due the malice towards Tanayani seemed to lessen when she looked towards my sister. It seems like all these years she hasn't discovered anything unusual. If everyone is present, then let's go look at the results now, I said coldly. The woman immediately wanted to snatch the test results from my hand, but I avoided her in time. She shouted, "I told you Tanayani is my child. What more tests do I need to do?" The more like that Tanayani and Tongle's expressions became even more smug. On the contrary, my parents and Luke Duda's faces became even more serious. In front of everyone, I opened the 2 blood test reports and immediately turned to the page with the results. The atmosphere around became silent for a moment. "What were the results?" my parents asked me in unison. "To show them the report, except for Luke Do, the little girl who was afraid to face the truth, and the woman who always insisted that Tanayani was her daughter." Everyone crowded in to look. My parents were the first to see. They looked attentively, then both of them simultaneously became silent. The report went to Tanayani and Tongla. Their eyes stopped on the results, then on their faces they both expressed disbelief. "How could this be possible?" both of them exclaimed. "Tanayani is completely impossible." Accepting this fact, she flipped through the 2 reports, looking intently at the 2 lines on it. After a while, she raised her head to look at me, questioning if she didn't want me to go home, so she deliberately changed the results, she said. Then she quickly turned to Luke Dudu, loudly said, "Surely she was afraid that I would come back and take away everything she had, so she deliberately faked the results, right?" Luke Dudu is the type who didn't understand what was going on. The appraisal result fell to the ground. A rough hand picked it up, and then another sound of "How could it be like that?" rang out. The middle-aged woman who had previously confirmed that Tanayani was her daughter was now also mumbling when looking at the results. "Weren't they the ones who gave birth to you? How could it not be? How could you be my daughter?" I couldn't help but exclaim in my heart. It was true that Kanthu did not accept it. Luke Do, after mustering up all her courage to look at the appraisal report, immediately jumped up happily and hugged me. "You're not her then? You must be our child, right?" "Of course." I patted her head and thought to myself that these past few days she must have been very scared, so active and confident, had to live in worry and fear all this time. Other 3 people couldn't accept this truth, their own thoughts. "You guys very curious, why did she clearly enter my mother's room to feed her child?" But the results of the examination now showed that the child she raised was not my parents' child. All eyes immediately turned to me, middle-aged woman, even though she had luckily not caused my sister to get lost back then. If I hadn't discovered it at that time, she have committed such a harmful act. Should I have let it go just because I failed and came to me then? This gunshot from 18 years ago should have hit her right in the middle of her forehead. Of a middle-aged woman, thought you gave birth and your daughter was living in luxury, smiled at her when she entered the hospital room. That year, was a child like me in the room? Why did she suddenly stop? I had put the child she was going to swap into her child's crib and returned it to its original position, and all these years she had harbored so much resentment towards the child of a rich family. All of it was vented on her own son. "You're lying." That woman struggled to attack me, but her parents and younger sister stopped me. I looked at Tanayani. "Do you remember I asked you about your blood type?" She raised her head to look at me. "My parents are both blood type. It's impossible to give birth to a child with blood type like you," I said in a calm voice. "Even if her swap plan was successful, my family goes for a health check every year. The fact that your blood type is different is impossible to hide." Tanayani smiled like she was pouting, her lips curled up in bitterness. She had suffered all kinds of abuse and humiliation from her biological mother, and finally found a reasonable reason. Her mother is a scheming villain, porridge child with a rich family, and like that she found the starting point for all her sufferings to open another life, but now she discovered that she was indeed her biological child, but that mother considered her as someone else's child, putting all the bitterness and dissatisfaction on her. She is really pitiful, but I can neither sympathize nor pity her. If the exchange plan had succeeded, if she happened to be blood type, oh, then what would happen to my biological sister too? Naini would enjoy the glory and wealth that did not belong to her and my parents, and I would treat her with all the best, while my younger sister Thu had to suffer because who would naturally go for a DNA test. I called my parents and sister to prepare to go home, but before leaving the door I turned to look back at them, and also the apartment in Hodong. I will have someone pack up your things today. You move out of there, and about the slanderous rumors aimed at my sister in the past, I will investigate each person on the way home. My mother lovingly scolded, ha, such a big thing, but you did tell your mother and father really be exchanged. My father also agreed. Before, expect your mouth to be so tight that even your parents hid it. But he paused for a moment and couldn't help but say that he had already done that at the age of 6. Was true that my daughter had finished speaking. My mother beat him up again. Gloomy atmosphere in the family for the past few days finally disappeared. Lot of things to compete for their little daughter. Just thinking about it, the little girl was almost exchanged as soon as she was born. Compensate was an achievement since I was 6 years old. Reward me with a company. Seriously suspected that my parents were planning to retire prematurely. Me had to settle accounts. Dong, ni. Then no matter what she said, I used my parents' phone to block and delete all contact with her. I also took the opportunity to teach my parents a lesson from now on. When meeting people of unknown origin, don't bring them home, just make things more complicated. Okay, no, I was wrong. They kept quiet. Next is the job of the old man. I asked the technician to find each person using big and small accounts to scold my sister. Most of these people are students in the school. Some even took screenshots and shared them on social networks, which were exaggerated by news sites, causing no small impact. I reported to the police. Some people slandered and bullied my sister in school. All those involved could not escape being implicated, not verifying the truth. Attacked others. That is a social lesson should teach them. Those who the police cannot handle, I will sue each person in turn. My family does not lack anything but money. The incident involved so many students that it alarmed the principal and other leaders in the school. Those days teachers in the school called me continuously, must have talking until my throat was dry. Finally, after the agreement, the school's official account posted a correction and announced to deal with the fabricated and cyberbullied subjects. The students involved all had to make a video apology and submit a self-criticism. As for the non-student internet users, my family's legal team will handle it anyway. My sister wants to continue studying at that school, so she doesn't want to cause too much conflict. If she wants to study abroad, I don't care much about Tanayan Ni's situation, but still can't avoid hearing from others about her. This story started with her, and even though the school's confession wall was posted by her roommate, but also because they believed her lies until everyone discovered it was all fabricated. Her friends were also punished. No one escaped too. Nani incited others to bully my sister, so now she has to suffer the opposite consequence of being isolated, and finally had to ask to drop out of school. I heard that later she became the mistress of the general ceremony, but the thing, Tongla noticed her from the beginning as the young lady of the Luke family. This cover, Tongla's eyes also decreased significantly. Tongla lost his engagement with me and was scolded by the elders in the family. Before me, at that time, listened to the other side, apologize and confess emotionally. Next to the eldest young lady of the Luke family is very competitive. People want to take your place. Regardless of the other side being so angry that he was fuming, he calmly turned off the phone and blocked my number. Walked over and picked up the phone and found out that Tongla had been blocked by him. Tavu back pulled me into his arms and was jealous of him, tempered and has little ability. Looking at him, more poisonous than poison. Me, when will you bring me home to meet your parents? Not long ago, initiative to suggest it, resist the temptation, and so he clung to me and refused to leave. Even though he had his own house in the same area, didn't bother to go home. Your parents anymore. In an unfriendly tone, his hand caressed my cheek and gently said that I had to let you take me out. Didn't hesitate to spend effort to please the people around me. Clicked his tongue, go out and play, aimed to invite her along and cover all the expenses. But that girl said he was like a weasel with chicken, so badly that I thought like that he had the first idea. Commented on the story of me getting back together with Tavu back. Didn't hide it from his sister. Her reaction was quite strong. My period day off to run to my house to cook brown sugar water for me to drink, where I almost never used to make a 6-course meal and a steaming soup. Looked Tavu back and enthusiastically said that no one understands how to take care of you like me. We are the champion couple. This Tavu back did not give up. After sitting down to taste Luke Duda's cooking skills, finally raised his thumb to acknowledge her cooking skills. Her furious to me, sad before him, adults and children, transfers money to you, refuse the money that comes to the door. She looked at me with worried eyes. Suffer again because men are still young and don't understand that feelings sometimes have their own joys, not the type of people who get lost in love. Only you are suitable for me. This matter involves too many things that need to be considered carefully. Swap the child years ago is named Duongfang. Qian discovered that there was a real relationship between her and my family. No resentment, but the incident that year was not a moment of impulsiveness, but a plan that had been set up in advance. She used to be a nurse at that hospital. Accessing information about pregnant women in the hospital was not a difficult task. She took advantage of her job position to know my mother's expected date of birth and deliberately chose the same date of birth as my mother. Not long after giving birth, because of a guilty conscience, she quit her job for many years. She still followed my sister from a hidden corner, sure that it was the child she had worked hard to arrange for replacing. Thinking about the fact that for many years there was someone who had always followed my sister, I couldn't help but use myself. However, 18 years have passed now. There is no longer any direct evidence to prove that Duongfang Qian had carried out the act of exchanging children at that time. I was too young to understand the matter of gain and loss, and later I forgot about this matter. If it wasn't for me Naini coming to the house, this fate memory would probably forever be deep in my memory. The next time I met Naini was at a club familiar set. When I approached, saw a little scuffle at the door. I saw Duongfang Qian was holding Naini's hand tightly, urgently saying, "Naini, still young, don't drop out of school anymore. Won't be sincere with you." That woman was much thinner than the last time I saw her. Not the usual thinness, but like she was sick. "Get away. Attention to me, Naini. Don't torture yourself anymore. Won't live much longer." Me, I found that scene really funny. Which path is right? Coldly say to her mother. She had changed me to someone else in the past. Then who would want a mother like her? She being sick is what she deserves. Deserves it from an outsider's perspective. If anyone knew the inside story, Naini, forgive both of them, ruined another family for her own gain. Grown daughter in the distorted family because of that is indeed the victim, but it is not as bad as this before the DNA test results. Revenge, known to my family and her that she chose that path, and the person with the greatest guilt is Duongfang Qian. Caused everything. Tongla also cut off relations with Naini. His nature is not that of a Trangda person. Ngokhead for her has also dried up when faced with benefits. A young lady from a family that is cooperating deeply with the two families. My family, and was once forced by the family to come to the house to apologize, but could not save the power in the family. Less cousin and sister, able to hold back and get a little angry at Naini. But no matter what, still good air in the family, and Naini is hard to say that he is used to it, willing to return to a normal life. No one knows. Slowly passed by 2 or 3 years later. Recently, born when I was 3 years old. Those images always come back in my dreams. Sometimes I dream that I am sleeping on the headboard, has entered, and the person who is loved and cared for by the whole family is someone else. Wake up in a cold sweat next to me. Don't be afraid of having nightmares. He is really thick-skinned. Bed, face on his chest. Surplus was really changed. Sleep, call your sister to sleep with you. Moment later, resentfully, not as good as my sister-in-law's.